Hey, it's Elizabeth Brown, the kitchen vixen, and my cat Axel. She surprised me. So today is a legs and thighs day. Sounds redundant, but I did legs at the gym. It was raining, it was cold, I'm soaking wet, I need to go shower, but I just wanted to start my recipe. And as my friend Rebecca pointed out, I'm on a thigh kick, and I am because I bought a pack of 4, so I'm going to use them up. So I experimented with this recipe yesterday, and I'm calling it my Thanksgiving for one. Not that it's like, oh, poor me, I'm going to eat by myself. I'm probably going to work because I like being around the patients when I'm on holidays because it's kind of fun, actually. I'm going to make the chicken thighs with the skin on and a bone with diced sweet potatoes and apples, rosemary, thyme, a little red onion, butter, kind of like what I had the other day, but the thing is I'm using a different cutting technique. Hey, Axel. So it really gives it a totally different spin than the recipe I created the other day. And hopefully, if I'm motivated, I'll make one tomorrow, and I have an idea for a spiralized sweet potato. Skillet all heated with my butter and my chicken skin side down. I'm gonna brown that. So the thing about sweet potatoes and anything that's like an orangey vegetable, these are good sources of your carotenoids like beta carotene. And you are supposed to eat something from this family every other day. Vitamin C food you're supposed to eat every day. So, I always try to have citrus. That's just my personal thing. Carotenoids you're supposed to have at least every other day, but it doesn't hurt to have it every day. So I'm doing like probably a small to medium dice of the sweet potatoes. And then the apples I might cut a little bit bigger. The apples will definitely cook quicker. So I'm going to throw in the sweet potatoes first. When I went to the gym, I thought I knew I wanted to do legs. I knew it was going to rain. I kind of waited a little too long to go. It didn't even rain until I got there, and then it started pouring, and I was already outside, but I was mostly undercover. So that's an interesting little video. I don't know if you can see all the rain, but I got drenched, and I was doing hip thrusters, which are great butt workout. So working on the glutes always, especially as you get older. It starts to fall and you lose muscle. And you know what? It's like an aesthetic thing. Like, yeah, we think like I want to look cute in my pants and whatever, but it also greatly affects your activity of daily living. So like when your butt muscles get weak, then you probably maybe aren't as active as you normally would be, or you might have difficulty just standing up. So you're more at risk for injury. Oh, I'm also going to make a dressing for a salad. So I don't have any cranberries like a traditional Thanksgiving dinner, but I thought the apples would be nice with the sweet potatoes. Those are traditional Thanksgiving foods. And I'm going to do a salad with, all I have is dates. So I'm going to use dates instead of cranberries in my salad. This is just like such a simple recipe. I just threw it together yesterday, and it was a little cold yesterday and I took the day off. So it was a great comforting meal. So, it doesn't have to just be for Thanksgiving. It doesn't have to just be for one. You can make it for your whole family. Very, very simple. So I just use a small apple, a half a sweet potato, a chicken thigh with the skin on. I have my oven set at 450, and I have the baking rack at the top level. I'm going to bake it for about 15 minutes. All right, so you can see the skin is nice and brown. I'm gonna add the sweet potatoes next because they take a little bit longer to cook. Of course, they're gonna finish in the oven anyway. Now I'm using my le creuset. I'll learn how to say that eventually. Cookware. I love this skillet. It's cast iron. Usually with cast iron, when you cook with cast iron, you actually get iron in your body. So it's actually considered a dietary source of iron to cook with cast iron. Seems weird, but iron is iron. It's a metal, no matter how you slice it. Slice some onions to go with this. I just a lot of times just wing my recipes. I don't know, like whatever I have on hand. It's kind of how I cooked ever since I was younger. My mom, people always ask, how long I've been cooking, and I'm like, I feel like I've been cooking since I was like in elementary school. Like I was just allowed to, and there were no rules. Nobody was worried. It was like my mom was like, yeah, anything so I don't have to do it, or go feed yourself. Don't bother me. One of my most popular things to make as a kid was grilled cheese sandwiches. I used to put so much cheese on there where they were so gooey, and one of my parents' friends would come over and he'd be like, what are you making? And I'd tell him, and he's like, can I have one? So I made them for him. He said I made the best grilled cheese ever. And then ironically, my first job when I was in high school, when I wanted to drive, my parents were like, you better get a job so you can pay for your insurance. So I took a job. Actually, a friend of mine in my chemistry class worked at this steak shop. So that was my first job. So I made grilled cheeses all the time. But we made like grilled cheese with tuna and tomato. They were so good. All right, so while that's cooking, I guess I'm going to prep my dressing ingredients. So for the dressing, it's always good to know how to make a basic vinaigrette. And I don't know, I think there's like a ratio, like 2 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. But honestly, like, I'm like, whatever I have on hand, I don't have that much vinegar left. So I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I'll just usually I do use more vinegar than oil. And I always like a little sweetness too to kind of cut the acids. I use honey or maple syrup, but I don't have either of those right now. So I'm just going to use a little fruit juice to sweeten and balance my dressing. Put the garlic in there and a little bit of salt and pepper. So I do grind my pepper fresh in a coffee grinder because I don't use it for grinding coffee. And then I keep it in this little bamboo thing. It's really awesome. What else? Let's see. Oh, some Dijon. So Dijon helps the oil and vinegar emulsify, blend together. Okay, so just like a little, half a teaspoon oil. So this is going to go in my salad that's going to have warm red onions with curry and dates. And I usually put that on top of spinach, but I don't have much spinach left. So I'll use a little bit of spinach and a little bit of red leaf lettuce. And then I'm also going to use the red leaf lettuce in my smoothie. So I'm just going to add a little water. There we go. Okay. All right, watch out, Baz. I'm going to turn on the blender. Ready? It's going to be loud. Okay, let's see how our chicken's doing. Oh God, it looks so good. All right, I have to add the rosemary and the thyme, and then I can throw it in the oven. I can't believe actually that I made this recipe once yesterday, and it's like, oh my God, it's so much easier than I even remembered. I'm just like throwing it together. So I think I mentioned this too yesterday. It's like, I'm never afraid to mess up. Like in my whole life, when I went to school to be a dietitian, I don't know, I just wanted to learn about nutrition. I didn't even know what it entailed. So I went to school, I took a class. It was hard. That intro class is really difficult. I actually taught that class to college students when I finished grad school, and it was hard to teach. It took me like 20 hours for each 3-hour lecture, like to prepare, because I was like learning everything over like in detail, so I would, so I could teach it and not forget anything. But after I took that class, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to school for nutrition. And I had to get out of the Air Force and then go to school. And so the next class I took was chemistry, and I failed. Like, I didn't know. And I was in a class with all I went to Penn State, and I was in a class with all like pre-med and engineering majors and stuff. And it's like, whatever, they don't know that I failed until I went back the next year. And then the next students that took it, I had the same professor because I went to a branch campus of Penn State in Allentown. And so I had the same professor. And then when I finished, she was like, well, Miss Brown, she would point me out in class all the time. Well, Miss Brown remembers this, don't you, Miss Brown? I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I finally passed with a B. And then when I finished, she was like, well, Miss Brown, how do you feel? You finished chemistry. And I'm like, I'm so happy I don't have to take any more chemistry. And she's like, what do you think nutrition is? And ironically, years later, I eventually become a dietitian, which you don't become a dietitian just because you get a degree. You have to then get an internship. And I didn't get an internship right when I graduated. So I did a food service management internship in Raleigh. And then I came back and worked in food service in nursing homes for like a year. And then I got my internship. And then eventually I worked in the hospital as a dietitian, and I did diabetes education and weight management. I was their full-time outpatient dietitian at Lehigh Valley Hospital. And my chemistry professor was one of my patients. So it was very ironic. So anyway, but we were good friends. I saw her for years. That's good. Okay. I love garlic, but it's not too much. You taste a little bit of the mustard. Oh, I forgot my juice. Actually, it could use maybe a little sweetness. Let me try that. Just a little bit. Okay. Yeah, perfect. So my Le Creuset cookware, it did not come with a lid. And I think everyone has in their hometown thrift stores. In LA, we have a lot, and there was this amazing one in Malibu that closed, but it was huge. And I just remember I took the measurements of my skillet, and I went there and I just searched and searched until I found the perfect lid. So this lid is awesome. I couldn't cook without a lid. It's just not for me. I like to steam, saute things a lot. So because of the rosemary, this definitely smells very Thanksgiving-y. I don't know, is that a word? I have cats. Whenever I take something off the stove, I think they're pretty smart. I do believe they're smart, but just in case, because they like to go up and down here, I will put something on the burner so that they won't step on the hot burner. All right, so I'm gonna throw this in the oven. That's really heavy. Okay. When I bought this skillet, I got it at the Le Creuset outlet at the Citadel here in California. And the guy that sold it to me told me that this older woman just bought one. And I think she said, I'm 50, but she was like in her 70s, I think, at least. And he said that she could easily pick it up with one hand. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, yeah, she was a tennis player. So even though all my years of weightlifting, I don't have the strongest wrists in the world. Set the timer for 15 minutes. Again, this is set at 450 in the oven. And that should perfectly finish off the chicken and all the vegetables. And I'm going to clean up this. I'll make the salad when I get back, and I'll be all dressed and all ready to go to work because I really have to go. All right, bye. A dietitian walks into a bar. Wait, no. A dietitian walks into the gym, and she's looking for a corner, a bar, and a pole. And then it starts to rain. You'll see. Okay, I'm back. I'm ready for work, but I gotta finish my recipe for you guys and for me so I can eat. And just in time, my meal is done. My lovely baked chicken with apples and sweet potatoes and rosemary and thyme and little red onion. It's so good. I'll say it's the bomb. I say everything's the bomb, but it really is. I'm very excited about that. So now I have a little bit of butter in another Le Creuset skillet to saute a red onion. I wanted to use cranberries. That's what I'd normally use, and it would be perfect for a Thanksgiving meal for one, but I don't have any cranberries, so I'm going to use dates. Just something that will give it that little sweet element. You could also use raisins or currants if you have those. And heat it in the skillet. God, I always get an itchy nose when I'm cooking. Don't worry, if I cook for somebody, I won't touch my face. I have to say that because I do touch my face a lot, and I totally know better. I was a food service manager, and I have to oversee people in healthcare as far as food safety, so I know better, but I can't help it. So now I'm just chopping up the date. It's very sticky, so I just kind of want to get little pieces that I could just heat with the onion, but I'm going to wait till the onion cooks a little bit. So I have the stove set on like medium high, I think. I also have a blood orange, which I think was a traditional Pilgrim food. No, I'm just kidding. But I love blood oranges. If you guys haven't had them, I didn't have them until I moved to California, but they're so good. It's like an orange with a little bit of extra tang to it. So it's not, sometimes they're not as sweet as regular oranges, but I just like that extra redness to them. And just like with the red onions and blueberries and red cabbage and red beets, anything that's in that blue, purple, red group belongs to the anthocyanins. And I know cyan is actually blue, but it's still in that range, that color range. So those are super powerful antioxidants, which we have so many in our diet if you eat whole foods. But the more variety, the more different types, the more different colors, the more protective nutrients you get. So why not go for color? It doesn't have to be acai. I love pomegranates, but dude, they're a pain, you know? So it doesn't have to be pomegranates. It could be a purple onion or a blood orange. Seasonal is always best if you can. I actually don't know the season for onions. To me, they seem like year round. But blood oranges are definitely like this time of year, fall. Hi, Chandler. I already have my salad like in one of my, what do I call these? Glass lock dishes. I'm just gonna throw the orange on top. And then I have my dressing all ready. So I have an extra container for like my peppercorns. And I have the extra dressing in another container. So I'll make another salad tomorrow. I have a different idea in mind. And then also don't forget to keep your scraps. I keep my scraps in a container and then I'll throw them in the freezer. I'm way overdue for making a stock. So I'll throw chicken bones in there too, actually. So it's like, I say vegetable stock, it mostly is vegetables. One of my favorite things I learned when I went to holistic culinary school, I went to the Bauman School for Holistic Nutrition in Santa Cruz. When I initially moved to San Francisco to do a cooking show, I actually lived in Berkeley and then I went to this culinary school. But probably my most favorite thing I learned while attending that school was we would just use all the scraps to make stock. And we used a lot of vegetables in our recipes. So at the end of the day, we had all these extra vegetables. And I think we would make a stock throughout the day and then we would freeze some. Or we might have just used them right away. But I just started freezing them because I just couldn't, make stock fast enough. The onions look really good. Let me show you here. They're all nice and like a little brown with salt and pepper and a little butter. And you can use olive oil or coconut oil, whatever you like. So now I'm just gonna like break up the dates that I had already cut up. It's gonna be good. It's really good with the cranberries, but I've done it with raisins too. It's just, I love the combination of like the tangy dressing and the, the sweetness of the dried fruit and then a little bit of bite from the onions. I always like a diversity of flavors. Like I don't like too much of any one. I think it's a balance, but sometimes recipes maybe call for a little more heat or a little more cooling, but I always like these pretty balanced through and through. I'm just gonna make my smoothie. So I got my leafy greens in my blender. And by the way, this little table I have here was like in like our dumpster area in my building. So I'm not afraid to dumpster dive. One man's trash is another man's treasure. And this has worked really well for helping me like join my counters together for cooking demos. So I have some blackberries from the farmer's market. They're really good. But I just want to add them right away just to make sure I consume them in my smoothie. I'm out of vanilla protein powder. I'm using a tablespoon of nutritional yeast. Definitely protein in nutritional yeast. And there's also beta-glucan, which is it's an antioxidant that also gets a lot of publicity. So for like being a cancer fighter, and I think some people attribute it to blood sugar control, but frankly in that realm, blood sugar control comes from making sure that your muscles are active. So with people that have type 2 diabetes anyway, the fault lies in the muscles not being able to use insulin and therefore lower blood sugar the way they used to. So you got lazy muscles. So you got to be active to make the muscles use insulin, or sometimes your muscles, when they're active, they don't even need insulin to help lower blood sugar. So that's the benefit of exercise. I'm gonna add some soy milk, about a cup, at least 2 cups a day. And then that is one thing I supplement is my calcium, because I've analyzed my diet on different occasions, and if I don't consume like 3 cups of soy milk or something similar, I don't meet my calcium requirements for the day. So I don't want to have brittle bones. So that's done. All right, so that goes on top of my salad, and then I'll mix it with the dressing when I'm ready to consume it. And as I said, I always like to leave a pot with water in it on the burner while it's still hot, just so my cats know not to go near that. In nursing home, we have a lot of patients that have had hip fractures, or actually we have patients that have had falls, and then they fracture their hip. But sometimes it's actually the brittle bones that cause the fall. Like the bones literally like crush on themselves. So your hips, your wrists, and your spine have the highest turnover rate, and that's why those are the easiest places to fracture. So stuff we want to avoid when we get older. All right, so I'm just gonna blend this up. Okay, so I also put my nuts and seeds in there and flaxseed. That's actually really good. I don't like raspberries and chocolate, but blackberries I don't mind. Okay, it's Elizabeth Brown, the Kitchen Vixen. I'm going to edit this a lot.